There's a few films that came out in October that Vince and I were going to go review. And one of them was Crimson Peak. So I actually went to go see Crimson Peak yesterday because every single thing I've seen from it indicated that this was a horror movie. The very opening dialogue of the trailer, she says, "Ghosts are real. That much I know." I mean, when somebody says that, you automatically think, oh, this is going to be a really good ghost story. Well, in fact, Crimson Peak is not a ghost story. It's not a horror movie. And it is a gothic romance. Now, before I get into talking about just the horrible promotion for this film, first let me say, it's not a bad movie. This is directed by Guillermo. If you're not familiar with him, he's directed some great films like Hellboy, Hellboy 2, Pan's Labyrinth, and the one that everybody seems to love except for Vince and I, Pacific Rim. And we actually did review that on here. And if you really want to see what Vince and I thought of Pacific Rim, we do have the review of it on our page, so you can go check that out. Alright, so like I said, everything from the commercial indicated that this was a haunted house ghost story. There was nothing that told me that this was going to be a romance film, and it's 100% a romantic film. Now, would I have gone and seen it if they promoted it that way? Probably not. I mean, I totally went in this expecting it to be a horror film, and it's nothing like a horror movie. However, the directing in this film is awesome. Guillermo did a spectacular job directing this film. Everything looks incredible in this movie. And the acting in this film is also extremely good by everybody. The story itself is what suffers here. It's not really that interesting of a story. And actually, the first half of the film I liked better than the second half of the film, where it started to try to get darker and more mysterious and eerie, but it just never works. This movie has so many great ideas and executes them so well, but it just doesn't really go anywhere. So for the horror fans out there for this month, if you're like me and saw this trailer and like, oh man, this looks so creepy and eerie and I want to go see it, don't bother. However, if you're in a mood for a dark, sort of gothic, romantic story, absolutely go see this. So I know what you're saying to yourself, but there's ghosts in this film, is there not? Actually, there are ghosts in this film. But they don't really have anything to do with the plot of the movie. They just are there, and they're really cool looking. I mean, it has some really cool CGI effects, but they're there just to sort of kind of move the plot along, you know, at a snail's pace. And that was one of the big problems with this movie, is it moves very slowly. Is it a terrible movie? No. It's not a terrible film. It's kind of like it wants to be a ghost story, sort of, but it's not. And there's a couple scenes in here that are pretty gross, actually. It gets pretty violent. So this is a pretty big disappointment for me. I was really expecting something eerie and creepy, and, you know, I've always loved the haunted house movies, and I thought that's what this was going to be, but no, it is not. Why am I reviewing this for Horror Month? Well, because I think a lot of people, like myself, are confused about this film. If you want to see something creepy, you want to see something eerie, this is not your film. I would have to give Crimson Peak a 3 Guillermo out of 5. Not a haunted house film, not a ghost movie. None of the above that it promoted it as to be. So I hope you liked today's review of Crimson Peak. If so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because all month long, Vince and I are still reviewing DVDs, and we're going to still bring you some movies and some other stuff we're going to throw at you and see what hits and see what slides down the wall.
They got 20 minutes into the movie, and then all of a sudden it says, Guillermo.